Hey guys, welcome back with the new release of Goblin Bikers in the next pack. This is the first big leak that we have seen for the October pack, and me really expecting Temper Dragon. I want to show you one card that you should, in my opinion, save up for, because this will be a very meta relevant one in the next meta, which will be for a long time in my opinion. So I think you should save your ultra rare crafting points for that. You can also use the ultra rare crafting points that you get from the new duel pass. If you have not seen, a new duel pass is there. You should definitely go and buy the gold one. This is one of the best investments ever, and then go ahead to get the card I am talking about. I'm talking about Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. You have these different artworks here, but we only have the normal one, which means at some point we will get the alternative artwork in the future for a pack probably. But yeah, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, definitely a hand trap that not a lot of people have, because it's also an ultra rare, but I think it's one of the best investments for the future. Might be one of the best hand trap, obviously not as good as Maxi, and also not as good as Ash Blossom, because Ash Blossom can counter Maxi in the next format. And let's quickly explain, or let me explain why this is. So if you're not aware, this card basically says when a monster on the field activates its effect, or when a spell trap that is already face up on the field, so basically a continuous spell or a field spell, activate its effect. Quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or field. You can also set this to your field in a defense position if this gets attacked and flipped up, for example, or if you just play it in attack position, you can also send it from there, and you can send it to the graveyard, which means you can also use this under a dimension shifter. That's very important. Destroy that card on the field. So this destroys the card. It's very important to understand that this does not negate the effect of a card if you destroy the card, but obviously if the card was a field spell or a continuous spell or a continuous trap, it will negate the effect, because continuous spells, traps, and field spells need to be on the field in order to resolve their effect, if you're not aware of that. But why do I talk about this card being very great? So I have said this already, we will get the Goblin Biker stuff within the next update, but I think the major thing that will be important or impactful is the release of Temper Dragon, which I am expecting to come in the next update also. And this hand trap, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, is basically very effective against the entire meta. Let me first show you what this is already good at. So we have Jubel, one of the strongest decks in the entire game, a deck that is played a lot, and here you can hit very important pieces. You can, for example, hit a Nightmare Throne not at the first beginning, so when this card is activated you cannot hit this with a Ghost Ogre, because a Ghost Ogre says that it needs to hit a card that is already on the field, already face up on the field. So you cannot do this on activation, but you can destroy the Nightmare Throne if it wants to summon Jubel monsters. But the more important one is definitely the Nightmare Pain, one of the core cards, continuous spell card in the Jubel deck that wants to get access to the Spirit of Jubel and thereby get access to basically the entire combo line. And if you can destroy Nightmare Pain, this is very effective and will be an awesome target. You could also hit Opening of the Spirit Gates, also very important if your opponent somehow ends up with a Samsara the Lotus in the hand, or a Spirit of Jubel in the hand, you could say, and want to get it to the graveyard to resummon it. You can also just shoot this with your Ghost Ogre. Super effective. This card is really great against this deck. Obviously you can also destroy monsters on the field that activate their effect. So for example, you could destroy an Unchained Soul Lord of Yama, and then it could not be used as a link material to climb up into, for example, a Rage. But the Nightmare Pain and the Opening of the Spirit Gate is way better, and then it's also better than an Ash Blossom, because an Ash Blossom would just negate these search effects, for example, whereas the Ghost Ogre will destroy these cards, so they cannot be used against you in the terms of a grind game, because they won't stay up on the field. Then we have Snake Eyes Fire King, and here it's very obvious where this is great, and obviously this is at Destruction of the Fire King Island. Important to note here is that obviously your Fire King opponent has the Sanctuary that can be used to defend against this, but if you can get rid of the Sanctuary, you can use this on the Fire King Island, and then the Fire King Island will blow up the entire board. You can also use this to get rid of other important cards on the field, for example, Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames, which is very impactful because this is a Link 3 that is commonly used to Link climb up into higher Link monsters, for example, the Ambler Whale, or if you can negate her somehow, this will be possible in the future, the Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. You can also, and this is another thing talking about Appaloosa, you can also negate the Appaloosa, because if the Appaloosa gets destroyed, it cannot negate anything, because Appaloosa says when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can make this card lose exactly 800 attack, and if you do, negate the activation. So for example, let's say I am playing a Promethean Princess myself into an Appaloosa, and I want to activate my Promethean Princess effect. And then my opponent chains the Appaloosa, which then I can chain the Ghost Ogre, and if you're not aware, this can only be chained once per chain, so he the opponent cannot use the Appaloosa to negate my Ghost Ogre, at which point my Ghost Ogre would resolve, destroy the Appaloosa, and because when the Appaloosa wants to negate my Promethean Princess, which was chain link 1, the Appaloosa will no longer be able to do that because the Appaloosa is not on the field anymore because of Ghost Ogre's chain link 3 effect, which means it cannot lose 800 attack, and only if it loses 800 attack it can negate. So Ghost Ogre very impactful against Appaloosa. The only thing to keep in mind is that Appaloosa should not be made with an IP Masquerena because then it cannot be destroyed by card effect, but in the combos that we are using at the current moment, this does not happen. This will probably happen with Fiendsmith in the future, but it's not something that is happening right now, so you don't have to worry. Very strong against Fire King as well. We have, for example, I also wanted to talk about, quickly have to refresh this, unfortunately Master Duel meta has become as bad as the Deutsche Bahn, which is our like train service. Unfortunately, you have to use the Deutsche Bahn because this is the only train service in Germany, so it's a monopole basically. Same thing as with Master Duel meta. It's so bad since they have like flooded it with advertisements, unfortunately, but it's the best resource nevertheless, unfortunately. But then again, this is a different topic. We have Dragon Link once again back into the meta, and obviously there are also a lot of things that you can hit here with Dragon Link. For example, the boot sector launch as well as the Dragon Ravine, very important points. You could also, for example, what else could you hit here? You hit a branded regain, which is the best engine piece for your Dragon Link opponent to basically win in the grind game with the Bestials. This is very effective. You could also destroy a Bestial Lobelion if you wanted to on effect activation, but the best targets are definitely Dragon Ravine, the Branded Regain, as well as the boot sector launch. These are core pieces in the combo and you will destroy them, not only negate them, which means they cannot be used against you in the future. We have Voices Voice, and here the most obvious target is the Barrier of the Voices Voice, denying access to, for example, the Zafira, which can then obviously ritual summon. You can also destroy the Blessing of the Voices Voice in a grind game where they then cannot recycle the Blessing. Keep in mind that Blessing can recycle any other one, but nothing can recycle Blessing. So if you end up in a grind game situation, Blessing or destroying the Blessing is very impactful. You can also destroy the trap. That would then no longer be able to resolve, and you could also, for example, destroy a low, and sometimes this can make sense, but this obviously depends on the board state. And then we have Centurion, also a very fan favorite, being played a lot at the current moment, and this was actually one of the hand traps that was put in mainly against Centurion because it can hit the field spell. This is obviously super effective because without the field spell your opponent cannot synchro summon on your turn, which means your opponent cannot go into a Cosmic Blazer Dragon or into a red Supernova Dragon, but he can also not, if he activates this on his turn, set something into the spell trap zone. So this is extremely effective. You can also hit the monsters if you want to on board. So Ghost Ogre is definitely one of the strongest cards against the Centurion deck. But this is not all, because as I already said, we are getting the Goblin Biker stuff, and also against Goblin Biker you can use the hand trap. I wouldn't say that against Goblin Biker it is super effective or the most effective card. You can in theory destroy the Goblin Biker Grand Bash, but you can also destroy the Goblin Biker Big Gabonga when it activates its effect. If you're not aware, this is basically the boss monster, and it will then not be able to use a lot of its effects, especially the detach and attach effects. And if you're not aware, a lot of Goblin Biker cards also want to detach from XYZ monsters to activate their effects. So if this one is gone, they can no longer do this. So hitting Goblin Bikers, or especially the Big Gabonga with a Ghost Ogre, is also very effective. And then obviously the main reason, and you can see this card is very effective against basically every meta deck, but the main reason that you will need it when Temper Dragon will, I hope and I think, come out in the next pack together with Goblin Bikers, you will need the Ghost Ogre, is against Temper Dragon, because we will have this problem here. And by the way, against Temper Dragon you can hit the Second Summoning, which is the field spell that makes everything during the main phase 1 unaffected, all the Dragon Fire monsters, which basically helps your opponent kill you without you having the ability to respond. You could also destroy the Synchro monsters, but keep in mind that they can chain to Synchro Summon, so that's not that effective. But having the Ghost Ogre against the Second Summoning is super effective, even though I think that we will also get Second Summoning at 1. The reason that we definitely need Ghost Ogre is that I think in our best of one format, when Tenpai comes out, this is a go second kill deck that is very, very effective. The best go second deck to ever be released, honestly. If you can also hit the Trident Region in the battle phase, for example, with the Ghost Ogre, and then the biggest kill option is gone. It's interesting that if I type in Tenpai, they will also show me the Trident Region, which is not a Tenpai card, but obviously is the boss monster, you could say. Then again, this is also the boss monster. But we are playing a best of one format, which means we cannot really side against Tenpai Dragon. And that means that, for example, if you are playing Tenpai Dragon yourself, you have to think about what you want to do if your opponent lets you go first, because he's also playing Tenpai Dragon. Because in the beginning, probably a lot of people will be playing Tenpai Dragon. So what you want to do then is, in my opinion, not have a lot of board breakers, because you can also play Tenpai Dragon with board breakers, but have a lot of hand traps. The most effective one being the Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, especially against Tenpai. So in my opinion, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, besides Maxi and Ash Blossom, because they are just this extremely strong pair, will be the most effective hand trap that we will have in the format where we will get Goblin Bikers as well as Tenpai Dragon. So save your ultra resources. You will also, if you want to play Tenpai Dragon yourself, need a lot of hand traps. This deck can play up to 21, 22 non-engine. Most of them will be hand traps. You can also play, as I already said, a board breaker variant, but I don't think that's very effective, because if there are a lot of Tenpai Dragon players on the ladder and they will let you go first, then you have a problem, because then you have board breakers like Regeki in the hand or Lightning Storm that you can't use. But if you have hand traps in your hand, you can obviously just use them on your opponent's turn. So that's why I think the Tenpai version with the hand traps will be the way better one in our best of one format. But yeah, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, the hand trap of the next format, and definitely something you should save up for. I think it's also nice to over time get on your account all the important hand traps like Effect Veiler, like Ghost Bell and Moonlit Chill, all the other ones, because there will always be formats in which you can use them, and if you have them, you just have them, and you can then use them in formats that they are useful for. Especially important having these cards if you are playing tournaments like the Challenger Cup, because then you have to be prepared for a lot of decks, and you can also side deck. And we might also, I think this will happen at some point, get a side deck best of free option in Master Duel, maybe a ladder. This might take some while, but I think this will come in the future. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Are you ready to get invest in the Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, as you will probably have to do once this deck will also be confirmed? I am expecting this. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think I'm overhyping Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit a bit? What is your opinion? Let me know, and we will see each other in the next one.